Kev, when we spoke to Dan a couple of weeks ago, he explained how we were taking a slightly different approach to the Premier League Cup this year in terms of the coaches. You're leading the Brentford B game. Are you excited for the occasion?
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. It's great when the young players get to go out and play at SJP, play against high-level opposition of a similar age. They get to measure up where they're at. They get to see, where they're ahead, where they're behind, what they might need to do to improve. And from our point of view, it's great to welcome different teams to the football club and put them out there and go head to head.
And as you're leading the group for this one, Dan said it's all about getting the players, familiar with the different coaches and the different styles. Just a bit more generally, how would you describe your coaching style on the touchline?
That was one of the thought processes going behind it, really, is you've got the gaffer, you've got myself, you've got Greener, you've got Perks. We're all very different characters. We all we coach differently, we speak differently, we emphasise certain things whether we mean to or not. We've all got our own kind of bias and the way we see the game and the way we like to coach it. So these players get to see a very similar message, but they get to hear it slightly different. They get to hear it from a different viewpoint. Yeah, it's an interesting thing because obviously a lot of your communication is body language, is the way you say things, not necessarily the words themselves. But our principles are going to be the same because it's how we play, it's how we're trying to coach the team, because we want these lads to be able to step into the first team at some point. So there's no point in going completely off script and me deciding I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm not going to benefit anybody there. But my sideline style as a manager and as a coach is probably a bit more quiet, a bit more calm. I've got in my mind what I want to really drive with them when we get to Brentford, and I've got in my mind the things where I'm going to challenge them to show me what they know without me having to kind of shout it from the sideline. I want them to go out there and show me what they've learned over these last few months playing in our style and playing in our way, how they have translated the stuff that they've picked up in training, and can they actually go and execute that in a game when the pressure's on and people are running around, and it's a whole lot different to training or just watching it on a TV screen.
You obviously watched the first game against Luton a couple of weeks ago. What are you looking to draw on and what are you looking to build from that game?
I think you're building their experience, you're building their match readiness, you're building their understanding, you're building their ability to go out and put into practice the stuff that they've learned under a level of stress. And Brentford are going to be a really good team. It's a Premier League B team. So they're going to go out there and they're going to be prepared, they're going to be well coached, they're going to be well drilled, they're probably going to play in the style of Brentford. So you see that similarity, same as what we're trying to do. We're preparing our lads so that they can go and play for our first team. Brentford are trying to do the same. So I think it's going to be really interesting. And then it's interesting for me personally to go up against that. And I think for me it's about what am I going to see in game that I might want to tweak or change, and what am I going to see in game that I just want to let them learn. There's always a balance, there's a spectrum of coaching, I suppose, of this is the game plan, we want you to go and execute it, but actually this is what's turned up and it's slightly different to what we thought. So how can you react mid-game to be able to combat the problems that the opposition are giving you, or cause the opposition more problems yourself? And I think that's the beauty of football, but it's also, again, a spectrum of we want you to play like this because this is what's going to get you into our first team, and if everyone's on the same page we'll be more effective. But what individual skills do you bring it's going to make you a footballer over a long period of time, because you're probably not going to be at Exeter for 10-15 years. It's very rare. Sween is about the only one that we've known for a few years. So I think that those balances and those spectrums and that understanding of your individual quality and how you plug that into a certain style, bear in mind somebody could go and buy you in the next transfer window and you might have to play a completely different one. I know that's where the academy pride themselves on trying to put the younger players all the way through from the age of 9 and all the way through into different positions, different formations, different ways of playing, but all within principles of what we try and do at our first team, because that's where we'd like to get them. And it's fascinating. It is the world of coaching. There's no right or wrong. There's no absolute definitely got to do it this way. And you look at it at the absolute top level, and you've got Pep and you've got Arteta, who are constantly going mental on the sideline. You've got Ancelotti, who stands there and raises his eyebrow now and then, and you've got everything in between that. And for me, the most important thing is to be authentic to yourself. That I don't want to stand on the sideline and be a poor version of Gary Caldwell. I don't want to try and imitate what Greener does. I don't want to be exactly the same as Perks. I want the players to know that this is me, this is who I am, and it's easy for me to be that way because it's genuine. And again, that'll be interesting for the players as well. How will they respond to that? I think what you'll find is if there's a squad of 25 players, 4 or 5 will respond really well, 4 or 5 will not quite get it and not understand it, and then there'll be a whole mix of in between, and that is also part of their development because they're not going to play for the same manager for 10, 15 years. Even Sweens didn't manage that.
Bit more specifically on the opposition, Brentford B are a team that we somewhat know a bit well. You know, we've had a few players on loan from them. We obviously played them a couple of months ago in the knockout stages of the Cup, and we got Ethan on loan from them this year. I'm assuming you won't be asking him directly for advice, but what can you draw on, you know, from the previous experiences and the loanees?
I mean, again, we do this right. It's good practice, so it's not just the previous experiences. We've watched back 3 or 4 of their games over the last few weeks, so that we know where they're at, what they do, how they try and hurt you, and how you might hurt them. You understand when you watch Brentford's first team play that they've got certain principles and styles and things that they do. And then again, it's down to the coach. How much do I dig down into single individual bits of tactics that I think are going to hurt, and how much do I talk to the players about passion and fight and running and principle-based stuff that will help them win any game of football? You know, that's why I say, for me, you know, without giving too much away, my plan will be to set them up in a way and really drive the defensive side of it. But on the ball, I just want them to go and show me what they've learned. I want them to go and show me what they think it would take to get into our first team, the principles that we have when we're in possession. And I don't want to give too much away to them. I want them to show us, not just me, us as a staff and as a fan base, that they get it, and that they not just get it, but they can do it.
A bit wider as well, several players who have featured in this competition have also featured in the first team this season. Kieran Wilson and Liam Oakes, for example, in the squad on Saturday. How useful is it, you know, for them to blend those experiences of playing in the under-21s and the first team? And do you look for them to, you know, replicate stuff they might find in the first team in these games? Definitely.
And I think that's where Greener spoke to the group after the Luton game when it was tight and we were winning, and Kieran had the ball in the corner and he tried to kill the game a little bit by holding a player off, by kicking it off them, by killing a bit of time. That's the dark arts. That's how to see a game out, or one way of seeing a game out. And that's exactly what he witnessed when he played Doncaster in the opening game of the season, when they were 1-0 up and they were hanging on a little bit, and they killed a good 2 or 3 minutes in the bottom corner by just holding the ball, being awkward, kicking it off our players, getting another corner, doing it again. And it's so frustrating when you're on the other end of it. But I think Kieran had obviously seen it and thought that that's one way of doing it, and executed it on the day. So they're always going to pick those things up. They're always going to get a chance to practice them. And I think this Cup has been really good for that. You know, last season it was Jake Richards who was in and around the squad but not really featuring. He had 2 or 3 good games in this competition, and next minute he started the next 5, 6, 7 games for the first team. So it's not just a case of showing us what you've learned and what you've got. It's a case of putting your case forward to say, I want to play.
And of course, this is a game at St James Park, and there will be supporters there like there were against Luton, and we had a really healthy crowd for that game. And I guess as well as the footballing side of it, it's also learning about playing under the pressure of having people watching, having people pay to come and watch you as well. Yeah,
and that brings a whole new... When you're down at the park playing with your mates, and you know you're playing till it goes dark, and if kids still do that anymore, but it certainly used to be the case. When you're doing that, there's no pressure, and you're free, and you do things, and you try things, and you learn things. And then you start to play in your youth teams and your younger teams, and you've got mum and dad watching and a couple of other parents, and it still feels fairly pressure free. And then all of a sudden there's a few hundred people, and if you're lucky you might get a few thousand or tens of thousands, and it's still the same game. The ball's still round, the grass is still green, there's goals either end. Nothing changes, and yet everything seems to become slightly more difficult. So this is brilliant for them to be able to do that, brilliant for them to be able to score goals and celebrate in front of a crowd, and I'm looking forward to it.
And also brilliant for the crowd to see the next generation coming through as well.
No, absolutely. So there'll be a mix of young boys, a mix of the lads that, like you say, have seen a little bit of time in the first team so far this season, and there might be the odd older head who needs a few minutes and needs topping up, ready to get back in our first team.
Thank you, Kev.
Brilliant.